Hello and welcome. I'm your host, author Ryan M. Oliver, and this is the Mighty Books Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. Today with me, I have Sasha Saidman. Sasha, how are you doing this fine day?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good. So good. I cannot even explain how good we're doing. I say that sarcastically because we both just got done talking about sick kids, and it's always very tiring to talk about.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. But anyway, we're here to talk about books, not sick kids. So what are we talking about today? You've got a whole bunch of books. What series or which one are we talking about today?
I do. I'd love to talk about all about ducks, kind of in
Oh
favor
yeah.
of our parenting discussion prior to.
Yes. Yes, I love it. We can talk about all the books. I'm
Oh
totally cool
yeah.
with having about all of them. But yeah, let's hear about all the ducks. You started giving me a little bit. I'm like, we gotta start telling people about this. This sounds amazing.
Yeah, so All Out of Ducks was inspired by the book that I feel like a lot of us know called Go the Fuck to Sleep,
Hell
which is a
yes,
pretty famous book that
it
I was
is.
gifted during my first pregnancy, and I love it.
Oh,
And I have a good friend who is really good about not cursing around her kids, which I
uh,
am not great
yeah,
at, honestly. Um,
us
and so
too.
when I was writing the book, it originally had curse words in it. And then I figured, well, if she won't read it to her kid, there's probably more people that won't read it to their kid.
Uh-huh.
So I started thinking of a book that had curse words hidden in them, maybe using animals. And my illustrator was able to illustrate these animals within the pages, so that both children and parents could enjoy. But really, it is a children's book for parents,
That is so
on the
excellent.
days that we are all out of ducks, which is very often when raising children.
Pretty much any day that ends in Y, one at least one time throughout the day, you run out of some ducks.
Yeah, it's
All
three
the
days a
ducks.
week, today, tomorrow, and yesterday.
Just constantly just present all the
Yes.
time, all the live long day. That is so great. So how long is All Out of Ducks? Is it about the standard like 32 pages or
Yeah, it's about, I think it's like 28 pages.
okay.
And I really wanted to like really pinpoint that idea of parenting is hard, you're not alone, and it's okay. And so a really important aspect was bringing up that mental health aspect of parenting.
Oh man.
And so on the front cover, we do have the National Maternal Health Hotline, which is a 24/7 hotline, call
Oh.
or text. So for like newborn mamas, you can text the phone number. And
Mhm.
so I really wanted it on the cover so that wherever the book is, wherever there's a picture of it, that phone number is very bold because remembering those newborn days, the postpartum days, it's really hard to do anything. So
Mhm.
everything kind of needs to be in your face or it's just not going to get done.
Ain't that a fact? Ain't that a fact?
So
And the amount of sleep you lose in the first 2 years is wild. Like I think they said 6 months. You lose six
Mhm.
months of sleep in the first 2 years. I feel like I lost even more than 6 months. My older boy was not a sleeper. He just,
especially when they sleep so often, you
yeah,
wonder why you can't sleep, but there's so many things in a day that you don't get done.
right.
And it's your brain never shuts off. And it's like you're now this whole second person as like a parent. I feel like when I became a parent, it wasn't like me becoming a parent. It was like I'm taking on like a new career on top
hmm
of all of my old careers,
Yeah, that's a
where it
good way
just
to put
adds
it.
on this load. It's not transitioning. It's this just adding on
Oh
constantly.
yeah.
And as they get older, it's I'm now a chauffeur and I'm a personal chef. I'm a personal stylist to my daughter. I'm a
hmm
hairstylist. We have to
hmm
pick out the right bows and the right
Yeah.
clips. And my son wants a fade. So now I have to figure out how to do a 1 to 2 fade on the sides. And it's never ending. And it's this never ending cycle of learning new skills and
Yeah.
also figuring out who you are and trying not to lose yourself, but also figuring out a new identity in parenthood. And
Yeah. Yeah, and still trying to maintain, if you're married still, trying to maintain a, solid and caring relationship where you actually have time for each other. That
Yeah.
that can be very frustrating. We are now just getting to the point where we're able to go and, it sounds weird, date again.
Yes.
So because my kids are old enough to, have an hour or so with, with at home or with, with family. So we're actually able to go out to enjoy a meal together, not being
Yes.
interrupted. So
Oh,
that's a huge one. It you'll get there. You'll get there.
I was gonna say we just got past like the 5 year marriage hump,
Oh,
which
there
I
you
feel
go.
like was like a big one for us getting through.
Hmm.
And this year has been a little bit easier in taking time for ourselves, where our kids
Good.
are almost 2 and just turned 3, so they're able to play together a little bit more
That's
rather than
nice.
separating the baby from the rambunctious toddler,
Hmm.
which is very convenient. My husband has both of them downstairs, and he's
Yeah.
able to kind of get things done versus absolutely nothing at all. So
Well,
that's we're kind of hitting that pace, but
yeah. And you hit a nice pace and you get set in your routines, and that really helps. And hopefully, especially with the kids go down about the same time, you two are able to at least just enjoy a show, be together. Sometimes we don't even have to talk. It's just nice to just sit in the same room and
funny you say that.
be there. Yeah.
My kids co-sleep with us
Oh
in
man.
separate rooms
Oh man.
because they can't sleep together. So my husband and I have not slept in the same bed in almost 2 years.
Oh my goodness gracious.
It
Oh,
is it has been trial and error after trial and
sure.
error, and I've looked into it so many times. I've Googled, is it normal? I've had all of those late night Google
Wonderings.
downfalls, and
Yeah.
the best advice I found is if you get sleep, then that is the goal. So if
Yeah.
you're at a point in parenting where this is the only way that everyone in the house sleeps and gets a good night's sleep, then sometimes that's where you have to land. And
Yeah.
then when people feel ready, when your kids feel safe and aren't waking up 10 million times when you're not right next to them, you
Yeah.
can start trying to find a new normal. But right now, that has been ours. And it is funny because I can creep away from our son for little bits of time, and me and my husband will powwow while our daughter sleeps in bed, and we'll just chat and we'll like just joke. And then my daughter wakes up and I have to hit the floor like I'm a cat burglar and
Yeah.
crawl in the bedroom.
Yeah, I
Or else he'll kind
remember.
of sit up and just wave to me and
Oh
me to
man.
go. And I'm like, all right, I'm leaving.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the negotiations of trying to
Ugh.
get this sleep, and then when you get one down, the other one comes awake. And we were fortunate where my youngest was a healthy sleeper, and he still
Mhm.
is. He's just one of those like godsend sleepers
Oh,
where the first day we had him, we had to wake his little butt up to actually feed him
oh
because he
my
slept for
gosh.
6 hours. Like in the hospital first,
Wow.
like, is he okay? He's breathing, he's good. He's eating. He's hungry. Oh, back to sleep. I love this kid. Okay, cool.
That's great.
I love my
He's the
oldest.
gotcha kid.
He's
That's the gotcha kid.
yeah, oh yeah. So he was our second though.
Okay.
So the fact that he's born is remarkable. My older one is the one who wouldn't eat and wouldn't sleep
Oh,
and was just yeah, but was always thinking and always moving. So it was such a challenge. The fact that he came
oh,
along, oh, God
yep.
said, you have been punished enough.
Yep. Here's one that sleeps.
Here's one that sleeps. Okay, we can just deal with the other one. Whew, yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
feel like with like a
a
kid who's
challenge.
that hard at first, you almost don't know how easy it can be. My son was flipped, so days were nights and nights were days until he was 4 months.
Oh
So he didn't go
my
to bed until
goodness.
like 1 or 2 a.m., slept on and off until 1 or 2 p.m., and then would be up.
Wow.
And with our daughter, she slept normal hours. And we were like, people actually have kids that sleep normal hours? Like that's a
Yeah.
thing. Like they
Yeah.
get tired at like 7 and then sleep and then wake up at like what?
Yeah.
Like she literally to this day, she's almost 2, she will knock on her door to go to bed and she'll say it's not night.
Oh,
And
I
she
love
knows,
I
like
love
she gets
that.
ready and she's like, I know it's time for bed.
That's
And I'm
adorable.
like, and my son to this day, not yet, not yet. He'll fall asleep on the sofa,
That
not
my
yet.
son to this day, and he's 10, he's like, I don't want to go to sleep. I'm
Yeah.
like, buddy, we got to go to sleep. I got to get
Mhm.
up stupid early in the morning. Your mother has to get up stupid early in the morning. She makes 4 billion decisions before 8 a.m. We need to
Uh-huh.
get to sleep now. But I don't want to go to sleep. I really don't care. We
Yeah.
need to go to
Like,
sleep. It's just,
yep.
that's something that is interesting. You've got 6 books behind you. They're very
Yes.
nicely laid out, by the way.
Thank you.
When do you find the time as a parent of 2 little ones to do anything productive other than clean, eat, sleep, and maybe talk with your husband occasionally.
Midnight. Literally, like 90% of my writing happens once my kids are asleep in the
Yeah.
middle of the night.
Hmm.
Like I have a book called Dust Bunnies Aren't Bad, Just a Little Unclean.
I
And
love
I
it.
was sitting in bed with my son. He was asleep. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to have a good idea for a book again. This was after I think my second book published. And I was like, and I'm never going to have a good book. Like I don't feel motivated. I
Ready.
don't feel like I have one that I'm really clinging on to. And then I started thinking about the mess in my house and I'm like, oh my gosh, like how can I help my toddler learn how to clean? And I'm like, and I started going on Pinterest looking for images of dust bunnies. And
Okay.
every single one was like scary and spiky and like this monster. I'm like, well, I can't show him that. And then I'm like, well, I have this great illustrator that I love and I could write a book. And so I just started thinking of this idea of I'm going to write a book about dust bunnies because they're these funny little creatures, kind of like thinking about childhood movies like Toy Story, like they
Yeah.
make trouble and mischief in our house. And
My
then I thought
gosh.
of that Kevin McAllister image from Home Alone where he has this map of his house. And I was like, that should be an image, or these dust bunnies with their their pitchforks
Oh
making
my
Q-tips and like
gosh.
spoons with their map of the house of how to get away from the vacuum and all these things. And it's just these nostalgic images. And I'm dyslexic, so I'm a very visual person. So whenever I think of a book, the first thing I think of is how I'm going to visualize it. And so it's
Hmm.
these images, and then it's like, okay, how do I write a text that goes along now with this image that I've kind of thought
In
up in my head? And that's
interesting.
how I wrote. And I ran into the room with my husband. And I was like, get this, like read this. And I was like whispering it to him. He's half asleep. The next morning he doesn't remember, and that
Of course.
starts an argument there because I'm so excited and he was asleep, which is his fault, obviously.
Obviously, he
You
needed to
know,
know to turn his brain back on to
he
listen to
does.
you. It's very
Exactly.
important.
Without any warning, with me busting into the room and turning on the
Yes.
lights, like he needs to be fully present
And
and then
engaged.
remember the conversation.
Every iteration you said.
Everything. He needs to have
Yes.
constructive feedback. Like,
Huh.
I'm ready to work.
I feel like I've had this conversation before.
Yeah, like I think this has happened. Like I recall something about this, but
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, that's kind of how I've had to do it too. It's just anytime they're asleep and the house is quiet is really the only time you're able to concentrate. Because I don't know about how you are with generating ideas and
Mhm.
actually thoughts. It sounds like with dyslexia too, it takes a
Mhm.
little extra time from what I've heard to
Yeah.
generate, especially the written word.
Yes.
So, I mean, I need time to decompress, have quiet, nothing
Mhm.
distracting. I'm very
Yeah.
distractible. It's a
Hmm.
little scary. I might be ADD. I doubt. No one said anything about it, but whatever. I can get things done, but I have to be hyper focused. Otherwise, nothing happens.
Yep, I
Nothing.
need something like if my kids are constantly interrupting me for things, I can't keep my line of focus where
Me
I might
too.
have an idea and I can jot that down, but then
Yes.
later in the evening when I'm alone, I'll be able to look back, look at my phone notes or like a voice to text that I left myself,
Yeah.
or I'll voice to text my husband and then he's questioning it. And I'm like, well, I couldn't forget it. And you were on the text, so I had to quickly do a voice to text because she had a poopy diaper and life got crazy.
Yes. Yeah. I
The
had
dog ate my breakfast, you know?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you feel the same way, but it's like you almost have to have that time to be confused and frustrated at the project
Yes.
before you're actually able to make
Oh, yeah.
production or any progress at all.
Mhm.
I found
Oh, yeah.
that like, how am I going to do this? I don't know. And you just kind of muddle with the puzzle and the idea for a while, and finally it just kind of clicks. Oh, that's how that goes
Yep.
together. I
I
have
had
to
that
have that time.
so much. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
That's so perfect because I have a book called First Day an Adoption Story and I'm
Mhm.
adopted.
Oh, okay.
And this was like my fifth out of six book. And I wrote this completely different. I sent it to people. I was all proud of it. I got feedback. I wasn't happy with the feedback. I
You need
almost
to change your
scratched the
feedback.
entire idea. And then I rewrote it completely. And then I was stuck for like 2 months on how to illustrate it because I couldn't figure out what I visually want it to be. And then one day I literally was at home. I think my kids were like either outside or downstairs.
Mhm.
And it just came to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have it. And I
Isn't that
literally
weird?
started just drawing it out. And I was like, this is so great. I'm so happy I waited. I'm so happy like this took so long because now I'm fully satisfied with how this imagery came about.
It's
And
so funny how that works. I wonder how that happens. If it's just your mind needs to make those mental connections. It needs to almost get lost. you need to forget about the story completely.
Yes.
And that's where I used to love my old like tedious menial jobs where it was you're going to go do this stupid thing for 3, 4 hours out of the day. And all your
Hmm.
mind's going to do is wander. Eventually, it's like I don't know, got unstuck somehow in a conveyor belt and finally flew down like, oh, there's the last missing piece I needed. I
Yes.
don't know what it is, but I, especially as you get older and you start working and you have
Mhm.
kids who engage you all the time, that gets harder and harder to be creative.
It
So
does.
the fact to be able to get 6 books thrown out there, that's remarkable.
It's it was a very busy year, but I was really motivated and it really was like a helpful with my postpartum journey because I had
Mm,
a really great postpartum with my son. And then with my daughter, I don't know if it was because it was an unexpected pregnancy, because it was my
maybe
second, and I was dealing with a toddler and a newborn with that lack of sleep. But my
that one.
postpartum was shot. Severe depression. I didn't know how to handle it. And so I think when I started writing, it really gave me something to grasp onto that I felt like an
Oh,
identity
cool.
with. And
Nice.
I was able to use my kids' experiences, which then helped me be more present with them in a positive light. So now all of these things are like, oh, like a boat in the kitchen. That came from finding a boat in the kitchen from my kids' bath time.
Yeah.
And I saw these little things around my house and wondered how my kids see it. And it helped me be in this moment of like, instead of seeing it as a mess, it's does he see a ship floating through our kitchen when he's playing? And does he see a huge cow standing in the laundry with a floppy sock over his ear? Or does he see this annoying doll that's going to get stuck in my washing machine and make a
Hmm.
clanking sound all night and keep me awake and me wonder what it is? Like kids just have such a cool visual of it. And so it was really fun to do that. And that was like my first one that I really had fun with drawing and illustrating and just playing with and really bringing my kids' imagination to life.
Very cool. Almost like a
Hmm.
literal depiction of what's going on in someone's imagination. That's super
Yeah.
cool. Kids have such a great way of explaining things. My boys, like my older boy, was talking about, stampede. He described a stampede as a really fast parade, and I was like, that is brilliant. That's a
Kids should
fast
name
parade.
things.
What's
Kids should
that?
name things.
I
Kids should name
agree.
things like
I
that.
agree. It's so good. Like it's so good. I mean, what was it? He tried to say triceratops. It became tri-tater tops. I'm like
Oh,
tater tots. Try tater tots. Try tater tots. I'm like, I
yeah.
like tater tots. You get three at
Yep.
a time. Fantastic.
Great. Let's do it. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Or making the connections when you're teaching them stuff. It's just so interesting. I remember we were walking down the street in our new neighborhood. This is years ago. He might have been 3, and there were quite a bit of deer that came in and out. And so we saw a couple doe and a fawn come by, and I was like, "Well, those are the does, and then the guys with the antlers, those are the bucks." And then my boy goes, "Well, why are the girls called does?" Like, I don't know, man. I really don't know. And he kind of thought for a while, was quiet. I think I know. I'm like, all right, I got to hear this. He goes, because they do have antlers.
oh my,
And I'm like, did you just make a pun? He goes, what's a pun? He, like I said,
like
3 or 4 years old.
that's gold.
It is. It's just, this is the kids and their brilliance. And they don't even know how brilliant they are.
They have no idea. And we're looking
No.
at them like you're going to be the next, like Einstein. Like, I
Something,
love you
something.
so much. My heart is bursting right now
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
just said that.
I'm trying to take all that love and appreciation and keeping it there for reserves when you piss me off at 2 in the morning
Yes.
because things happen because
Oh
kids
my
just do
gosh.
things.
That's so funny you say that because there's times my friend is home right now with her two sick kids and
Oh,
we'll be on video chat and just like trying to like give each other some level of emotional support or
mm-hmm.
companionship while we're both doing dishes and cooking. And
Yep.
every once in a while you'll hear one of us start to say, I love my kids. I love my kid. I love my kids. And we're almost like chanting it to ourselves of just like, we got this. We can do this. Everything's fine. Like we're great. We're great. Everything's going to be fine. They'll go back to school. They won't be sick anymore.
Hmm.
Like everything's good.
Everything's
You
great.
know, and you sometimes you put so much work into your kids and then they just throw it to the dogs. Like
Yeah.
I'll make this great dinner for them and I'm so proud of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like marinated chicken all day. We have like some seasoned green beans from a steamable bag. Like this
Yeah.
is great. Made some like that nice Velveeta mac and cheese and just flipped it.
Oh yeah.
Dogs everywhere. I have a husky and a pit bull and they're just
Oh yeah.
immediate
They're
just all
happy.
over. I mean, if my kids walk away from their food, my dogs will like jump onto a table. They're at the
Yes.
point of no return.
Hmm.
They don't eat dog food. I mean, they're They're on the toddler diet of they just eat what my toddlers give them 24/7. If they
Oh.
need a little extra sustenance, they go to their dog bowls.
Hmm.
I
They
mean, we're
need
at that
they
level.
need a
And it's just
snack
like,
now.
I'm like, why? Like, why am I trying to like
Yeah.
nice thing when like my daughter is on the side of the road with like snow that's like soot covered and she's just like, yum. And I'm like,
I don't
cool,
I don't get
whatever.
it
Like,
either.
you know what? You'll have a great immune system, kid. Like,
Oh,
great.
that's a fact. That's a fact. The
Yeah.
kids, especially if the kids ever went to daycare. My boys went to
Hmm.
daycare for a couple years and they were sick. I swear to God, every month.
Hmm.
And I burned so much leave from work. It was ridiculous just because every time I got them back to healthy again, there they go back home because
Oh.
they're sick. But then they hit public school.
Hmm.
Never sick. Maybe one day
Oh,
here, one day here. Except
love
this
that.
last time we had like a week and a half, 2 weeks where they both were just down. But
Mm.
that's, one's 10, one's 8. They might have been sick a couple days,
Hmm.
in a row the last several years. So this one just happened to catch them, you know, out of left field. Yeah, they'll be fine. But yeah,
It's
the
so funny.
food
My
thing. Ugh.
stepfather's mom used to tell him that kids will get sick 20 to 30 times. Once you hit like that 30 mark, you're pretty much in the clear. But
Yeah,
those first 20 to 30 will come at you like a bee's nest, just like boom, 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 like just constant.
like a bee's
And,
nest.
but they were like, just get me through these first 20 to 30, and then you'll start seeing it slow down. And
Hmm.
I remember when I first had my son, my stepfather came to me and he was like, 20 to 30 times, Sasha. You get 20 to 30 times because it was the first time my son was sick and had the sniffles. And he goes, you get 20 to 30 more. And I'm just like, you should not be a motivational speaker, Hank.
Well, for parents, I almost feel
But
like you have to start with the realism
it
because if you
is.
have your expectation, like guys,
Mhm.
it's gonna suck. It's gonna be like
Yep.
here, but
Yeah.
eventually it's gonna get better. It's gonna
Yeah.
get better.
Yep. I
And
remember having like a
oh,
sleep regression calendar and it being really helpful. And so there's like standard sleep regressions that kids go through around certain ages. And there's like a big one at 4 months, and then another one at like 8 or 9 when they start like kind of crawling. It starts with like, and it has to do with their brain development where they're starting to turn over at 4 months, where their brain kind of goes through it. So they have this huge regression. They don't sleep for more than 30 minutes at a time. It can last a day or it can last a month. And with my son, it was like 3 weeks long of
mm,
just and we had just gotten to the point where we were like, we thought we knew what we were doing as new parents.
yes, yes, I've
And then it hits
been
you, and
there.
you're like, and I remember with my
Oh,
second, someone was like, you should get a regression calendar so you know, and then you can plan grandparents' visits around it. We planned like for two different sets of grandparents to come right around 4 months. My daughter didn't sleep for one night and then she went back to sleeping. And I was like, it's when you plan that you don't need any help. But thanks for being here.
yeah.
I guess we're just going to have a normal visit
Mhm.
and everyone's going to sleep.
Yeah,
So,
fabulous. Yeah, thanks.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that sleep is such important. I love that you mentioned that as long as everyone's getting the good sleep you need,
Mhm.
especially the parents. And I mean, I'm going to add it,
Mhm.
especially the mother, especially after she's had
Yeah,
babies.
yeah,
Yeah, that sleep is such an important healing factor.
it
I mean,
is.
I can't speak from postpartum at all, but I can speak from my own, like, 'cause I
Hmm.
got diagnosed with sleep apnea about a year ago, 2 years ago. And I realized, wow, I sleep like shit now. This is
Yeah.
terrible. So I
Hmm.
really need to. My temper was shot. Everything was just awful. And this is with older kids. I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine dealing with infant, newborn, where you're already getting broken sleep.
Yeah.
Then you add that on top of it.
Mm.
There's no way. It makes complete sense with the hormones going all over the place, with the whole body
Oh,
just
yeah.
thrown about, and then you have a toddler that's pulling on you, and you have an infant that needs you. Yeah, that sleep is whatever you got to do,
Yep.
whatever you have to. I've talked to new parents,
Mhm.
parent people who don't have kids yet. They're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
my kids won't do this." Like, no, 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 no,
Oh my
they
God.
will,
Yeah.
and you're going to just survive.
Uh-huh. And I feel like we've all been that person. Like when you're
Oh,
pregnant and you see
yes.
someone, or even before pregnancy, and you're just like thinking like you're going to be a parent one day and you see a kid crying in public. My kid would never. My kid will never
Hmm.
be like that. My kid will never have a tantrum in public. They'll never throw anything. They would never say that. And then you become a parent. And I have held my daughter under one arm, held my toddler on the floor, kicking and screaming between my calves, trying to check out because I wouldn't get him M&Ms,
Yep.
trying to hold my ground because I know if I hold my ground for this fight, the next argument will be a little bit less and a little bit less versus giving in. I
Yes.
have people in line, but every once in a while you have this glimmer where I've noticed in public, and I try to be that person for other people, where someone who's been there will come up to you and be like, "You're doing such a great job. I've been there."
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
so validating as a parent because you do get those looks from people
Yes.
who haven't
Oh
been
yeah.
there or people who just had easy kids. I've seen people who had really easy children,
Yeah.
maybe had two sweet little girls and just
Hmm.
never dealt with it, or two sweet little boys and just never had that experience of a difficult child, or maybe they had a lot of help, so they didn't personally have to deal with it as much.
Mm.
And you're just like, I'm not a bad parent, but like,
No.
I have to go grocery shopping sometimes. And when I go grocery shopping, I have to have my kid with me. I don't have someone to leave them with, or
Yeah.
they're not old enough, or they had a fever, so they couldn't go to daycare. So I have to bring them with me to this situation. And it's like, this isn't ideal, but life goes on. And it's like,
Yes.
just to be in public and to be in those situations is so hard. So to be that person or have someone just come and validate that of just like, oh, we've been there. Oh my gosh, my son used to that all the time. It's just like,
Hmm.
thank you. Like for making me feel
Oh.
not so alone in this situation, make me feel
Hmm.
seen and not make me just feel like crap even
Yeah.
more than I already feel. It's like a parent with a crying toddler on a plane. You're like, obviously we feel horrible.
Yes. Yes.
Like,
We don't want them to be
trust me, we
crying right
don't want
now.
this.
No, we are on high alert. We're not happy about this at
Hmm.
all. Yeah, we try to be that understanding because we've had the same thing. We've had kids on planes and or
Oh,
my boy was on planes and did not do that great. We've done
yeah.
they've had the grocery store tantrums. Although it's weird, I don't know if your husband takes the kids to the grocery
Mhm.
store much at all, but I ended up going I think it was probably because what was it, pre or post COVID? I can't
Mhm.
remember. Probably post COVID. Would take the kids to take them out to the grocery store and they were for the most part, I would say 85% of the time, they were pretty well behaved. The
Nice.
few times my wife was like, I will take the kids to the grocery store, she come up, never again, never again.
I've
I don't know
heard
if it's a
that
mom
moms have a
thing.
harder time with it.
I think so, because I
Yeah.
don't know if it's just like they feel more comfortable with mom versus dad. I don't
Like the
know.
disciplinarian, like guy to guy, or my husband
Maybe.
talks to him like a man, and I
Yeah.
definitely talk to him like my son, and so maybe
Hmm.
that. But yeah, no, I
Maybe.
definitely even like my son and daughter, my son would consistently reach around and throw things out of the cart, and I used to have to hold his hands down with
Oh
him
no.
screaming, and I'm like, the options are leaving, which is not an option because I need groceries, letting him throw things at people at the floor and potentially make a huge mess or
Yeah.
hold his hands down. And I'm like, this is the best option. My daughter will sit there, she'll swing her legs in the cart long ways and sit there like she has a pina colada in her hand and just, I want this. I want that. That one. She'll like look at a few things. She'll touch some stuff in the cart. And she's just like on holiday. And I'm
I
like,
love it.
okay, this is great. Like,
Yeah.
thank you.
That
Like,
sounds like more like my
beautiful. Like,
boy
she
shit.
loves shopping.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, you're a chick for
Yeah.
sure.
My
Going
kids wanted to touch everything. They didn't
Yeah,
want
the
to
walk down the
throw.
aisle with the hands touching
Hmm.
every single thing.
They tried
Oh,
doing that a little bit, and I had to have one hand attached to the cart. One was in the cart, and
hmm.
I always did like almost like a general talks to his soldiers before going to war. You
Yeah.
will stand next to me. You will have one hand on the cart. You will sit there. You will not cry. You will do this.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I did that every single time. And they're like, okay, Dad. Okay, Dad. Can we get something? No, we're gonna get groceries. We're gonna get
Yep.
food.
This is food. Like this is the conversation. And that's like the hardest thing is like as like parents, like I always like as a mom, I always want to like cuddle my babies. I want them to
Yeah.
have what they want. I don't want them to have tantrums. But then you're like, oh no, I can't. Like we have this at home. So I'm constantly telling them when they see something in public, I'm like, we have that. We'll definitely play with that at home. Or like
Hmm.
you can get like strawberries for sure. That's a great snack. Like, of
Yep.
course, we can do something like that. You want cheese? Yeah, we're definitely making tacos. But
Hmm.
no, we're not going to open the cheese in the middle of the store and like shovel it into our mouths like we want to. That's called self-control. And adults need
Ah.
to have it because there are times that we want to do those things,
Mm. Mm. And you
but
do that
we
in the
have bad days.
privacy of your own kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. At night when your kids aren't watching, we're eating cookie dough.
Yeah. Yes, in fistfuls and fistfuls
Yes,
and
exactly.
with
And when you become an adult, you
yeah,
can do this too.
yes,
But
because you
right
can
now,
pay
you're the
for it.
kid, and we
Uh-huh.
had to do that when we were kids. So now you have to do it too.
It's your turn now. You
It's
have
your
to
turn.
wait for me to enjoy myself because you drive me
Exactly.
crazy.
It's like when you like tell them like chocolate is medicine. My husband will be
Yeah.
eating and he'll be like, "Oh, it's medicine. Like it's daddy's medicine." And then he's like, "Ooh, yuck." And he walks away and my husband's like shoveling peanut M&Ms into his mouth.
Oh,
But now my
yes.
son's at the age where he knows the packet, where he'll point at it and he
Oh.
knows and he's like, "That's chocolate."
When they start getting smart, you're like, Dang it.
Yeah, and they get smart so fast.
They do.
You're like, all of a sudden, you're like, wait, you know that? Like
Yeah.
my son knew like what a narwhal was. My daughter
Oh.
was calling this thing a unicorn, and he
Mhm.
goes, "That's a narwhal." I'm like, I couldn't
So
even remember that off the top of my head. I knew it was like something. I was thinking manatee. Like I just couldn't pull the word.
right.
He's over here like t looking at me like I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm like, I know.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Hey, all. If you've made it this far on purpose and enjoyed yourself, consider joining the Mighty Books Podcast Patreon. There, you get mighty benefits like early access to new episodes, exclusive members only content, and even free audiobooks. It's a great way to enjoy more insightful interviews, fun conversations, and more mighty stories. Finally, it supports the show so I can continue to deliver top-notch content to you, my mighty listeners. Thanks again for everything, and as always, stay mighty and keep reading. So with writing your books and dealing
Mhm.
with dyslexia, how do you, are there strategies you utilize, or is it just time that you need to help process information?
It's time. It's sending it to my parents to have them proofread and make sure
Sure.
punctuations are in the right place
Yeah,
and
who
double
cares
checking
about that stuff?
everything. I
Yeah.
feel like it's always nice to have someone to double check.
I agree.
Um, but yeah, no, it's time. It's reading over it a bunch of times, but
Hmm.
I'll read over things the way it should sound, and I'll miss little things here and there where I'm like, oh, that says that, and that's supposed to be here. And
Okay.
even I know in Melonade, I use the phrase superpower
Hmm.
in the back of the book and within the book. And I used it as two words and as one word at different points. And I have no idea where those are, but someone pointed out that to me. I was like, they're both right. Um,
Why
that's
not?
just my superpower or superpower.
Hmm.
It's
I love
sometimes,
those grammar things that mean the same, or they mean two different things, but you add like one period or
Mhm.
comma, and it's completely different.
It is. And so I think that it's just time. It's being able to laugh at yourself and kind of like be like, oh, I actually wrote that. It's using a lot of voice to text to try and
Mhm.
get my thoughts down for like spelling. And I actually
Oh,
really love writing. I'm reading, not the biggest fan of when it
yeah.
comes to like how fluently I read. It's just not fast enough for my brain to be amused. Or like I
Interesting.
wish I could read a page of like one of these smutty books that everyone's reading right now. Like
Sure.
I'm envious of these women who are reading these books at night because I'm like, it would take me like a couple extra minutes to read a page, and then I would probably be focusing on the words so much that I wouldn't actually comprehend what I was reading, and I'd have to reread it, and then it would ruin the book. So, but there's been a few that I've really loved over the years that I've reread multiple times. And then
Yes.
I love reading to my kids and I love promoting that for them. So
Yes.
I'm potentially going to write a larger book one day
Oh,
with a lot
cool.
of voice to text help.
Sure.
But with children's books, I feel like it's a lot of visual, and that's really my strength in it. And so that's where I found
Interesting.
that strength of seeing my kids grow up and watching them, visualizing kind of how they see it or
Yeah.
visualizing these ideas I have, and then writing something that goes along with it. So it's
Interesting.
a little backwards versus coming up with a storyline and then the visual, but it works for my brain. And
It
so
does.
that's kind of how it's gone. And it's funny, we're like talking about our kids being these like little rulers. I had this book idea, which is still on my phone, where we refer to the kids as like the CEO and president of the house.
That's amazing.
And it's the idea of you're waking up your president, you're going to the Oval Office, you got to cook them their breakfast. The eggs have to be cooked on two separate pans. The
That's
plates have to
brilliant.
be the right color. And it kind of would follow the all out of ducks idea of just like
Hmm.
they really are the boss. Like
Yeah.
they at a certain point, like you're like their management.
Kinda, yeah.
You
We
manage
just
their calendar, like you are their
We're the
personal shopper.
secretaries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
secretary, like, you make sure everything's in line, you help them bathe. They're like,
Yeah.
and you just kind of like, all right, well, we'll do it. Okay, we're gonna
Kind of
sit
kind
here.
of like
Like,
bumpers in bowling when they're real little.
yes,
It's like just kind of keeping
mm,
them in the narrow. It doesn't matter if in the lane, doesn't matter if they're left or right,
yes,
as long as they're going forward, that's all we care
yep.
about. Yeah,
We
that's
live
all
in a
we care about.
cul-de-sac and I'll walk with them and my kids are all over the road and it's like it's a no you it's a cul-de-sac, so there's no cars really going through. But
Right.
my son will just zigzag, and I'll have to take my daughter and zig onto this side of the street, and it's kind of like he's a bloodhound, just going back and forth to either side of the street, and I just have to like go with it, or else it's going to be a tantrum, and I'll have
Mhm.
two kids, and neither of them will want to do anything, and
Yeah.
then they'll start eating black snow, and I'm like, well, we're just
It's
whatever. We're
probably
we're
good for
rolling with
them.
it. Exactly. I
I'll
used to
probably.
do it.
Yeah, and
I'm
who didn't? Who didn't used to eat dirt or put things in their mouths when they
Mhm.
were little? Actually how they explore anyway. If you know
It
anything about
is.
child development, it's how they explore. With the
Yes.
mouth is one of the big things they do. So keeping things out of their mouths is
Mhm.
very challenging when they're
Yep.
younger because that's
I
how they
downloaded an
explore.
app that tells you what plants are, and
Yeah.
partly because I love gardening, and partially so I could know if it's poisonous. I had these little purple berries in my front yard that aren't native to my area, but apparently they're
Oh,
edible. But my daughter was walking over and just like she had purple all over. I'm
oh
like,
no.
is this like
Uh-oh.
a poison control call? Is this an ambulance, or is this like a we're good? And it was
We're just
good. I'm like, all right,
cool.
we're good,
Oh,
fine, great. Like,
yeah,
let's keep going on our day now. You can just
yeah,
snack on those, and we'll just keep washing the cars. We're good.
exactly. Actually. Well, I like how you're talking about the visual, like you're a very visual writer. What's
Mhm.
interesting is I've talked to several folks about the written word, and for
Mhm.
some reason, a lot have told me at least that how I write is very visual. Don't use pictures, but I
Mhm.
think I use a crap load of metaphors
Yeah.
and usual visual language. I feel like that's how you would write if I were to take any guesses at all. It
Oh
would be
yeah.
very metaphoric, very, you know what I'm talking about, just similes all the time, comparing this
Oh
to
yeah.
that, which
Hmm.
I love. I think
Yeah.
it's honestly one of the best ways to do it because we use this and put our imagination, and then if you tell us what it's supposed to look like, well,
Hmm.
shoot, there you go. That's the movie in my head that's playing now.
And
It,
that's so true how that is. And it's harder when you don't have that visual. So like
hmm
certain books like First Day in Adoption Story where there aren't a whole lot of visual aspects to it. It just
hmm
talks about a parent's adoption journey.
Yeah,
And my goal was to make it universal where there's no age, there's no gender, there's no type of family. It's just adoption for any
yeah.
family that's experienced adoption. And I was like, how do I visualize that without putting a mom, a dad, a baby? And
Mm,
I was like, and it was really hard to illustrate those. But then I have a book I'm working on now called Duncan the Garden Gnome. And I mean, it opens with Duncan the garden gnome lives just past the tiger lilies, in a old teapot with the old jack-o'-lanterns thrown out from last year. And it's such a visual, and it's like, there's the image,
yeah.
like tiger lilies, pumpkin. And it's just like it's so like easy to just visualize that and see that imagery.
Oh,
And
that's so
it's like,
cool.
oh, that's perfect. And that's something that I want coming out in the spring. And it's just about friendship and animals. And I love it. And so it's another thing that I just play on and have fun with, really.
Absolutely. And then in your books, do they do the rhyming at all? Is it like almost poetic or iambic pentameter, all that
Mhm.
technical stuff?
Yeah, I do some rhyming in them. A Boat in the Kitchen and Melonade are not rhyming, and Duncan is not rhyming.
Okay.
But First Night, First Day, All Head of Ducks, and Dust Bunnies Aren't Bad are all rhyming type
Okay.
books.
Got it.
And I have fun with it. I have fun little sing-songy things with it, and it feels like I have fun reading them to my little kids.
Hmm.
And so I feel like it helps with memorization. And then with the visuals, my artist Lola, who's phenomenal, adds in these other little things into the image that are like sight words for kids, like an apple, a banana.
Oh,
And
cool.
so there's like a zebra, or my daughter will see little things and she'll say, oh, that's a cow, that's a sheep, that's a
Yeah.
sock. And it's like not main parts of the words, but it's all of these images that are really brightly colored.
Hmm.
So they're really nice to like work on that word association and
Yeah.
things like that. I'm dyslexic diagnosed. We believe my husband is undiagnosed dyslexic, but he is very ADHD. And so we're in shock because my son like picked up a monkey and was like, M for monkey. And I was like, I wouldn't have known that in like third grade. So like, bravo, my boy. You are so smart. I love you so much. And I don't know what I'm gonna do because I'll probably need a tutor for you, but I will figure it out. Like we will like
Yes, you will
we'll do
figure it
that.
out. And
We
that's
will
what
figure it
parent
out.
That's what parenting is. You will figure it out. You,
Trial and error, all
oh
of the
my
trial
God.
and error.
We're basically scientists at this point in
Hmm.
time. And there are little experiments. I mean,
They are.
it's just the fact. It is
Even
just the
like
fact.
what works for them. We were talking about like Motrin and Tylenol at the same time, and it's
Oh
like
yeah.
not knowing that mixture of things will keep the fever away better than just using one or the other. And
Yeah.
it's every kid is different. And then as parents, we're growing so much, figuring out how it works and how we can like best help them, but also let them be. And it's
Yeah.
like, I heard this analogy, which I really love, and it was that we are our children's coaches. So
Hmm.
we can practice with them, we can cheer them on, we can prepare them, pep talk them, but we cannot get on the field. And
Yes.
there will be days they lose, there'll be days they win, there'll be ties, there'll be times they get
And I
hurt.
love that.
And it's like, but we just have to stay on that sideline. We cannot play the game for them. And
Yes.
I've always loved that analogy because it really does like sink in of just like we can't do it for them. We can only give
Correct.
them a set of skills. And once it's game time, once they're out in the world, we just have to hope that we've instilled enough wisdom and knowledge from our own experiences and they've grown enough from the life they've lived so far to play the game and know that we're here. We're on the sidelines no
Yeah.
matter what, but we can't do it for them. We can't
That,
take the task. We can't win the game. We can't, and it's just, it's hard because you want them to win all the time
you
and you don't
do.
want them to get hurt.
Yep.
But sometimes that builds character. My husband always says that it builds character.
I
And
say that all the time. I say that
yeah,
all the time. You know what?
mhm,
Losing builds so much character.
it
Losing
does.
builds character and it builds a level of grit too. I mean,
Yeah, it does.
it's insane. With the boys, we got them into wrestling for about 4 months
Mm.
with the coach that's actually their PE teacher, which is pretty
Oh,
cool.
nice.
He runs his own wrestling club, very well known. His
Mhm.
sons are like world champions, state
Wow.
champ. Oh yeah, national champions. They've competed internationally. It's insane. So the boys wanted to go play and try this out. They ended up not doing it forever, obviously, but
Hmm.
my oldest wanted to try and compete.
Mm.
Well, my wife and I have never done competitions, especially in wrestling. We're like,
Hmm.
heck yes, let's go. But we told them, here's the deal.
Hmm.
You start the tournament, you're going to finish the tournament,
Hmm.
regardless if you win or you lose. You've only
Yeah.
been wrestling for 5 weeks. So 10 wrestling matches or 10 wrestling training sessions. That's it. That's all he's had. It was a
Wow.
day-long competition, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
That is a long
It
day.
was a long day and exhausting, not just for
Mhm.
him, but for us watching him just getting destroyed by
Yeah.
some kids and then him
Hmm.
actually doing well.
Hmm.
It was the weirdest like high low day you've ever
Hmm.
experienced. And he wanted to quit so many times. We're like, nope, you're not quitting. You are
Yeah.
finishing this. You're going to finish. And I'm so glad, I'm very proud of him that he did
Mhm.
that. But it
Yeah.
after that 4 month stint with the competition, they both had a level of grit that I hadn't
Yeah.
seen before. They're able to
Mhm.
push through the hard, which is
Yeah.
very challenging. If you don't start at the
It
young
is.
age,
Hmm.
it only gets harder. So it was
Yeah.
really cool to see that they were able to push through being tired and hurting and just
Mhm.
beat up and beat down emotionally, that they got their
Yeah.
asses
Literally
kicked by this
defeated.
defeated. I mean, you can't do anything. The refs
Mhm.
are literally there waiting till the whistle blows. Time's
Yep.
off. He won because he got more points. Sorry,
Mhm.
kid. You got to learn
Yep.
how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And oh my God, it was a trying experience, but you have to let this kids fail.
Yeah, you do.
You
You
have to let
have
them
to let them
try.
fail and fall. And my son rides like the little Strider bikes, and my
Hmm.
husband rides dirt bikes, and we got him a dirt bike. And he's been on Strider bikes since he was before one. He had a little balance bike and he'd run around our island. And the first time he was ever on his like big, like little
Yeah.
50 cc two-stroke,
Oh,
it had
okay.
training wheels, and we had a neighbor and my husband, and they were running with him, and he grabbed a handful of throttle and just
Oh
went,
no.
and he ended up falling, and he had a helmet on, and immediate instinct is like this kid's about to lose it.
Yeah.
He stood up, picked his bike up, and just was like, keep going. And I'm like, I
Good.
had no idea where that came from. But then my husband came over. He's like, it's because he fell so much on his little Strider. He's literally eaten it into every wall of our house, every cabinet. Like, and that was just him in a diaper. Like, he's had no padding, like just his body, which was huge.
Yeah.
But he's fallen so many times that he's like, okay, I fell and I'm gonna get back up.
Yep.
It was great. And we actually started him in karate recently. And
Nice.
he's only been to like 4 classes. But his instructor, he's a father, he had a son, he knows kind of the ins and outs. And it took my son like about a class or two to really kind of show his true colors where he wasn't shy
Hmm.
anymore. And he
Yes.
started fighting back,
Good.
saying no to his instructor, pushing. And his instructor said, you do not leave the mat the second you start class. You're on the mat until it ends. You're either sitting and
Yes.
watching or you're being involved. And he
Hmm.
made him sit basically the entire class this last Monday. And he would try and come sit with me. He would tell me he was scared of his, and I just kept, nope, nope, you're back on the mat. Like you have to listen. And
Yep.
we had a conversation after, and he's like, this is so normal. And this was another time where I felt seen, where he's like, he is such a normal 3-year old. Like this is
Oh,
every
good.
3-year-old boy
Hmm.
is this. They will push and fight back, and we'll have a couple hard sessions where he'll continue because he's trying to establish dominancy.
Hmm.
And as the adult, as his instructor, these are my rules. And at some
Yes.
point, it'll sink in that this is how the world is. Like, these are
Right.
the rules of the game. You start class, you finish class. You're in a
Hmm.
6-week course right now, you're finishing the 6-week course. And he was like,
Exactly.
Mom, all I need you to do is bring him here.
Yep.
If after 6 weeks, you guys decide that this is it for him, it's not something he likes. But if he comes in and he's talking about saying he likes it, and then he comes in here and fights me, I know it's something that it'll break. He'll end up being great at it, and this will be
Yeah.
a really great thing. And it's like you said, starting them young, where
Yes.
they have that discipline and just that vigor of like, once you start something, you have to finish it
Absolutely.
because
And then
the
I
world
think,
will not let you quit when you're
no.
an adult. And if you go through childhood quitting,
Hmm.
adulthood's going to be a lot harder.
Oh my God, it is. I mean, the world rewards good decisions. The world rewards follow through. So
Yeah.
if you are following through with something, even if you're not really sure you want to do it all the way,
Hmm.
you just finish it. I finished this thing.
Hmm.
Here's what I accomplished. Cool. It was hard. Yes. Now your brain, I think it was like neuroplasticity or some weird word like that. It actually changes how you think and how you accomplish them or how you approach subjects or different
Wow.
tasks, and you actually are now more have more grit,
Mhm.
discipline to finish those hard, undesirable things, which is great
Yeah.
for the long run. And
Oh,
when they're
yeah.
adults, they'll reap the rewards of that, doing jobs they don't want to do. All of a sudden,
Hmm.
they've got more money, they've got more knowledge, they've got more whatever. It
Yeah.
is bountiful rewards. And then
Oh,
also you guys, how you guys react to them
yeah.
falling
Hmm.
down,
Yeah.
hurting themselves. It's like, oh, that looks like it hurt. You good? Cool. All right, let's
Yep.
go play.
Yep.
Not freaking out.
Uh-huh.
That is a
I had
huge one.
I had a small bit of experience when I lived in Arizona where I was a teacher's assistant at a Waldorf homeschool.
Hmm.
And one of the first things she told me, she goes, do not react. She goes, the
Hmm.
children will look to the parent to react or the adult, and however you react, they will
Yeah.
react. Even
Yep.
if they're not hurt, you see these parents who run to their children after the smallest fall, and you see the biggest reaction. It's
Hmm.
because often of the parents. You'll know, especially with your own child, when they're really hurt, when you need
Oh
to go
yeah.
to them fast. Like my son like hyperextended his neck the other night, just like
Ugh.
roughhousing on the bed. He just looked backward while he was falling and it just got up a little bit.
Oh.
And we both kind of knew like, okay, it's time to like wind down. Like we'll still like not react, but we'll keep an eye on it the rest of the night. But like to this day, like husband's terrible with my daughter. I mean, that's his princess, and he will not, let a fly touch her. That's his
Ah.
baby. She has him around her little finger. But for
Hmm.
the most part, it's like falling, hurting themselves. I'm so proud of them because to this day, they know that if they get hurt, they have to come to us for help because I want them to
Yes.
learn how to ask for help. So
That's a whole
if
other
they
aspect too.
pinch their finger in a door, if they stub
Yep.
their toe, if they fall, you can come over and let me know what you need
Hmm.
and I will help you, like as your parent,
Yes.
of course. Like if you need a kiss on the finger, if you need a kiss where the boo-boo is, but I'm not going to run over to you and do things for you. Like
No,
even at their
absolutely not.
young age, like you can, and then it's so sweet 'cause my son actually fell today in the street and I was right next to him. And I said, you need a hand? And he went to his sister and
Oh, that's
and
cute.
he put his hand out to her. And I'm like, I love this connection that they're helping each other now, where
Yes.
they are asking, but also it's they don't need me, which is sad, but it's also just rewarding to see them
Yes.
be independent, where it's not this big thing of needing to be coddled, where you want to coddle your babies, but you can't.
No.
And it's
There's a
this
time and
like,
a place.
there is. And it's also like my friend just said this to me last night is raising a son specifically for a mother is the slowest, longest breakup we will experience because as a woman,
Yeah.
I don't want to marry a mama's boy or someone whose dedication is solely to his mother. I want his
No.
dedication to be to me and his family. I want him to love his mother and have
Yes.
love, and I have love for them. But at the end of the day, when you have a family, that new family and that new development comes first. And so
Hmm.
I want to raise a son like that who
Yes.
I will not be the priority one day. For right now, I am his
Yeah.
world. My husband is his world. But one
Yep.
day, I hope that his wife and his children are his world. And I'm here to help and support and nurture that family as best I can as a grandparent. So,
Absolutely.
like, this breakup that's happening of like, I'm proud of the independence. And it's just this long breakup of, I love
Oh,
you so much and I have to let you go. And I have to
yeah.
teach you how to let go.
Yeah. And it's such a hard thing. It is such, I've never heard of it like that. The longest breakup you'll ever,
Yeah.
longest and hardest breakup you'll ever endure. It's
Yep.
very
And with
interesting.
boys and mothers, it's very different than fathers and daughters. Like, I feel like it's much more normal for a little girl to stay very attached to her father, or
Yeah.
even for boys to stay very attached to their fathers, because that's the man-to-man relationship as they get
Sure.
older. But for mothers and sons, there's just this weird thing that's just once the wife is in the picture, it's that's
You
their
almost, you
person.
kind of take second fiddle at that point in
Exactly.
time.
And
Yeah.
we have to like accept that role. And it's like, I have a phenomenal
Very
husband.
interesting.
Great. He's a great companion. He's a great father. And it's like his mother raised him to be very independent. And
Yeah.
I'm proud of that. And I love the
Yeah.
man. So I'm like, okay, like that's the goal is like
Mm,
raise these tiny little people into independent people who don't need us, which is
yeah.
very sad in the long
It
run, but
is.
it's really rewarding
It
because
is.
we hope that we don't need our parents in the same way. We always want them in our lives and, have them with us and have them to help us spell check and call them, help
Yeah.
during those sleep regressions. But,
Uh-huh. Have a healthy
you know,
relationship with them, and so that they
exactly.
can have healthy relationship with the
Yeah.
grandkids, and then so on and
Mhm.
so forth, and hopefully be a model for the future of other generations
They
too.
were our coaches and now we're their coaches and they're playing the
Exactly.
game. And I think that
Exactly.
that's such an important aspect when you become a parent to realize that you're no longer playing that game.
Yeah.
You have your own,
Hmm.
but you're not playing theirs. And so,
Yeah.
like, I see parents living vicariously through their children and really pushing their interests.
Yeah.
And at times, the kids really fall into it where they do love what the parents love. But more often than not, you see that battle of just, I want to please my parent. And so I'm going to do
Yeah.
this to please them. And it saddens me because you're like, you want them to do what they want. And
Exactly.
of course, there's parts of us as parents, like, I really hope they love this. Like, I loved theater. I really hope my daughter's into theater. But it's
Yeah.
like, I'm sure I'll like be like, hey, you like this? And if she says no, it's like, all right, are we into this? Like,
Yeah, and that kind of also goes back to the identity thing, you know. It,
mhm,
it's and it's something you can share and actually kind of visit your own identity again. But I mean, it's something that if down the road that your daughter doesn't end up liking theater,
mhm.
like something else, maybe she likes
Yeah,
band or something, or she likes a different sport.
yeah,
But now if you decide, you know what, I've got more time on my hands, I can do some more, maybe some community theater or something.
yeah,
Now that's all you, and then you can
yeah.
go and enjoy it with her for her thing. And so that way you kind of maintain that identity, but you can still share that art and that love for that hobby or
Oh, yeah.
whatever with your family. So it's still it's kind of got its downsides, but it's got its upsides too.
Oh, yeah. And understanding you do have your own separate identity from your children
Yes.
is so hard when they're little and they're in the house and they need so much. And
Yes.
it's like for these types of like even podcasts, we're both prepping our own kids for the
Hmm.
podcast ahead of time to make sure they're set up food, water, bathroom, like you got everything. Like,
Yeah, and then it's
and it,
usually there's usually an interruption or two. I've heard them
oh
coming
yeah.
outside a few times. They're talking really loud. Hopefully they can't be heard on the show, but
I haven't
yeah.
heard them, but yeah, I can hear my kids through the vents in our basement. I've heard a couple different outbursts. My daughter is a very loud, she has lungs for days.
Mine do
And
too.
yeah, so it's just,
They've inherited my loud, just normal talking voice, and
Mhm.
they're just super loud. My wife's like, "You all are so loud." I'm like, "I'm not even trying to be loud." She's like, "I know.
Mhm.
You're just fucking loud. Just stop."
Yeah.
Like, okay, sorry, sorry. I'll be quiet. But it works for my job. I'm an instructor, so I have to teach
Oh
to
yeah.
huge swaths of people. So me yelling
Mhm.
is or talking loud is kind of a bonus, I guess you
Yep.
could call it. So
It's part of
whatever.
the job description.
Yeah.
And it's
Can
good
you
with
talk
parenting
loud?
because sometimes you need that voice to like
Oh
go
yeah.
above the noise. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like my son's instructor the other day, he banged on one of the mats like really loud to kind of get all the kids' attention. And he's like, sometimes you just have to make a loud noise.
Yep.
Like it scares him, but it doesn't hurt him.
Nope.
Might scare him for a sec, but like you got to bang on some. And I
I've
was
done that
like,
too. Yep.
Then the like, the slap on the countertop.
Uh-huh. I was just
So
gonna say that. Yep, I've done that where they just won't shut up because
yeah.
they're kids and they're just so focused on their thing they're doing. And I've asked them 4 times to do something, and then bang, bang, bang. Huh? Like, oh,
Yep.
okay. Hey, welcome to the conversation. Now
Yep.
you're in trouble.
I've gotten that one where, Mommy, I need juice, juice, juice. And I'm actively getting the juice and I've
Uh-huh.
already like said okay to the question.
Yes.
And then they keep asking and Deacon Leonard,
Yeah. Huh?
do you see the juice in my hand?
No.
Oh, thank you. I'm like, we're here. We're good. And it's like he's not even looking at me while he's talking. He's just making sure that
Hmm.
his voice is getting heard. And I'm like, I
Hmm.
love your voice. I do. Your voice is amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Like, I love the phrase, like, I made it from scratch. Big, big fan.
Big fan. Made it from scratch. I
Big
love
fan.
that.
But also, I made it. The tude got it from here. I can
Mm,
right back, honey.
mm-hmm.
Right on back. Like, I tell my daughter that regularly, and she doesn't even understand it yet. I'm just like,
No.
girl, the tude, been there, done that. 32 years of experience with it, less than 2 years. Like, I got you beat.
Yeah.
Like,
My
try me.
my wife has something similar that she says. She looks at my oldest boy because he's the most stubborn of all of us, I feel like. She goes, "You are the most stubborn one here, but I am mom. I have mom stubbornness. I will out
Hmm.
stubborn you all day. So keep
Oh, yeah.
trying. I will win." And I
Hmm.
just sit there and giggle. I'm like, "Yeah, you get him.
Yeah.
You get him,
Yeah.
girl.
Oh,
Get
yeah.
it." I just
It's so
laugh.
funny because my husband does the same thing where he's like, I'm more of the disciplinarian,
Mm-hmm.
and my husband, he disciplines my son more than my daughter, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely for the majority of it, I'm the one who's like, I will lay down the law. Like when my son, he put something down the toilet the other day for like the
Oh no.
billionth time.
Uh,
And he was downstairs with my husband, and my daughter was upstairs with me. And he brought my son upstairs to his room. He was like, I'm leaving him in his room. And I'm like, okay. And I have the talks. I did the research. I did some schmoogling, trying to figure out the best way. And I was like, well, we can
uh,
leave the toilet. He's potty trained. And the best advice I saw, remove anything that can go down the toilet.
yeah.
Put it in the bin and put it away. And they
Mm,
said, one, it's a punishment because they lose the ability to play with these little Hot Wheel cars and tiny dinosaurs.
yep.
Two, they have to help clean up.
Yep.
And three, the perk, nothing will go down the toilet.
Nothing will go down the
And I
toilet.
was like, this is
Huh?
great. And my husband ended up deep cleaning the basement where he found a mouse nest. So that was even better.
Oh.
So we're now
Ah.
on a mouse hunt, which is
Oh,
just awesome.
you should watch that
We
movie,
love
by the
that.
way, Mouse
Oh,
Hunt.
great movie.
It is a great
Great
movie.
movie.
We just watched it the other day with the kids, and they're like, "This is amazing." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"This is hilarious." We're all laughing. This is
Hmm.
awesome. No,
Oh
my
my gosh.
smartest mouse ever. But
Smartest
sorry.
mouse.
Yeah,
I
so
love
sorry.
like the older
Tangent.
movies, older TV shows. Like I watch Seinfeld religiously, and
Oh,
that's like my
really?
comfort show.
I did not really get into Seinfeld too much. I've heard great things.
Mhm.
I've seen a couple episodes and they are hilarious. But
Mhm.
that was when I was younger. I need to probably rewatch that whole. We've just got the kids started back on Boy Meets World of all things.
Oh, great.
So it,
Topanga.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yep.
Topanga, the hair and the
Hmm.
hair with Sean's hair. And it's just
Oh
Corey's
yeah.
goof. And their boys love it. I'm like, this is great. This is something that her
Yep.
and I loved when we were kids. And it's appropriate so we can all watch together.
Yep.
So it's getting those moments and trying to and they're also good like life lesson
They are.
shows. So
Yeah.
the kids will ask questions and they'll prompt good conversations. And
Mhm.
as your kids get older, you'll get to deal with those conversations.
Super fun. My son, he kind of figured out what a woman's once a month thing was recently,
Oh,
and
so did
we had to
mine.
have a little bit of a conversation about that because he was quite concerned. And I was,
Ah,
and then he completely forgot about it until like we were in public and mentioned something, and I was like, not the time, kid, not the time. Like, I love you so much, but like, there's like no filter. Sometimes you just wish there was
yeah.
a little like dimmer switch or something. Just like,
No,
could we
it
just not?
yeah. No, they don't care. They don't care. I think I told you this before we started press record. My younger son, when he was like 2, we're in the middle of grocery store and he just says, "Why is that lady so fat?" And my wife just mortified, turned pale, and she's just like, "And we're walking to the line now. Just don't make eye contact." Because like, what do you say? Like,
Yeah.
she just eats too much. She's got a thyroid problem. We don't
We
know.
have no idea what's going on. Like maybe
We're not
she's pregnant with triplets. We have no idea what's going on.
right.
Like
Right.
Not the type of thing you talk about personally. I
Mm-mm.
asked, my mom has told me multiple times from my youth that I was in the shower at like a YMCA with her, and I would not stop staring at this older woman. And I was very concerned about how her chest looked,
Ah, yes.
that
That's
gravity had
wrong.
affected her chest
Hmm.
greatly, and that I became very distressed and even in tears, wondering if I would look like that. And she was
Oh
just
my
mortified. She said I
God.
was like 6 and I was just like staring at this lady mouth open in the showers. And she was just like, I was mortified, but I just had to like, be like, oh, that's what happens to our body is gravity. And I can now attest after breastfeeding 2 children, that is what happens. And
Gravity will bring us all down. It just
yes,
will.
it'll bring us all down.
All
And my
down.
younger self would be super upset about it, but it happens.
You have to get used to reality, and reality is just, it can be sad sometimes. It
It
can be a
it
bit
can it can
tragic.
be sad, and that's why we have to toughen up our kids and have them
Yeah.
have these failures in childhood because at some point gravity will take effect.
Yes, and that's why we have to have fun books like yours so that we can
Mhm.
stay happy and
Yes,
distract ourselves from the tragedy of well, life sometimes.
exactly. The little niceties, the little days that are fully out all out of ducks
So many ducks.
that are
Oh
just
my
part of
God.
it. And it's just, I tried my best to put as many little things about a parent. And I loved, someone told me recently, they were like, I love the book because the parent's trying so hard to have a good day. Like they take
Mm,
their kids to the park, they go out in the car,
I
they try
love that.
making them all this meal. And it's just like, you try. And I think there's a phrase in it that I got from one of my girlfriends. And it said, it's something about there's dishes filling the sink to
Hmm.
clean or to not, maybe later. For now, I'll sit and I'll rot. And it's just like
Like,
sometimes you hit that point where you're like, you know what? The kid
ah,
is content. I'm not going to do anything right now. I'm just going to
yeah,
stay quiet. I'm going to scroll on my phone. I'm going to lay here.
yeah.
I'm just going to
And
be.
just zen out.
And it's like, it's cool. I'm going to rot for a minute. And it's like
Yeah.
accepting that as parent. That's been such a hard lesson as a mother of like, it's okay to take a time out for myself. Like,
Hell
if my kid
yeah.
is content, it's okay not to suddenly get up and start cleaning and doing dishes and laundry. It's like, it's cool.
Yeah.
Like it'll
It,
pile up no matter what if
absolutely.
I do it today, if I do it tomorrow. So like just sit and rot sometimes. Like if they're letting you sit and rot, like sometimes you just need to take those 5 minutes.
Or
Because
hours.
yeah, because for some reason someone will come to the door and knocks, the dogs will bark because someone drives by and that moment is over and then the kid wants something and something happens and then there's
Hmm.
diapers and baseball practice starts and it
Oh
just
yeah.
and the day
It
starts
sure
rolling
is.
and you're like, why didn't I just sit there for those 5 minutes versus like trying to start a load of laundry, which I couldn't even start because then we had to leave and it's
Yep. It's just this revolving door of insanity sometimes.
yep.
Yeah,
And we love it. We love
yeah.
our kids so
Oh
much.
yeah, we do. We do. And it's like we would I've told this to my boys, like I will kill for you, I will die for
Hmm.
you, but you
Yep.
drive me fucking batshit crazy. Like I
Yep.
love you to death, but I
They
it's
pushed
just how it is.
they
They push
pushed
the
the buttons and
buttons.
they created the buttons.
They
They
did.
created buttons that I didn't know existed.
No.
And the kids are like they have like a little
I
machine
think
that
they
just
unearthed them like a paleontologist. I think
they
that's what they
did,
did. They were there.
seriously. They were like, "Hey, you know this childhood trauma that you had? Let me just
We push it that really hard for about
Yeah.
3 years and something
I
will
think
come
my son
up.
told me my ankles were big and I was like suddenly very aware of it. And I was like, wow, I remember in like soccer, I was like super aware that like my socks were tight. And I'm like, just like
Now,
spiral downwards of like, now I have cankles.
yeah, well,
Great.
my boys are very, very quick to say when I'm below them, they're like,
Mhm.
Dad, I can see your bald spot. I'm like, I hate
Mhm.
both of you. I hate both
Yeah.
of you. You just,
Mhm.
you're like, Sorry, my genetics suck. And yes, you are lucky you got your mother's hair. I hate
Yeah.
you both. Like it's just they got the thick, nice Italian hair, and I
Mhm.
got this wispy, crappy, like I think Irish. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, my son tells me regularly something's on my shirt, and I'm always like, yes, yes, I have
Oh,
mac
that's
and
normal.
cheese, or I have soap, or I have something that you put on me and wipe
Hmm.
down. Like you had a
Hmm.
blue M&M, and now there's blue all over me. Like
Hmm.
I don't even know how an M&M's dye can get that far, but it can make it across the
Oh,
house. I mean,
it can. It
it's.
can.
I mean, I
Leave it to
that's just the
kids.
world record. Yeah, they
They'll
can
they'll
they
figure
can
it
make it
out.
last. They can literally suck on it, wipe, suck, wipe, and they can make it work and it can get on every surface that you just cleaned.
Every single one. Doesn't
Every
matter. Yes,
Mhm.
I was writing down because I think I might make this into a just a fun parenting book one day, not to learn from necessarily, but more to just laugh with,
Yep.
kind of like all out of ducks. And
Hmm.
it's just little like one-liners I came up with every time the kids did something stupid or
Hmm.
funny or hilarious. I mean, like there was just a moment where Jackson, my youngest, he was maybe 18 months old. He'd gotten in the pantry, he pulled out top ramen and he walked over to the toilet and he dumped it in the toilet. And I said, that's not how you cook top ramen. You don't cook top ramen in the toilet. And I'm like, when the hell would I ever say this as
Yeah.
a normal single adult without
Oh my
children?
gosh.
Never.
Yep.
And you just
Hmm.
write stuff like that down. I'm like, this is just going to make me laugh, maybe make someone else laugh later. But it's just
Hmm.
stupid crap like that. It's just,
Oh,
it'll make other parents go, huh, that happened to me once.
yep.
Uh,
So many times. I had an experience similar where my son was potty training last summer and we were on the deck and we have like woods all around us. They were able to be naked and play in the pool. And my son just squat on the deck. And I went inside to get wipes, 2 seconds, and my daughter had it
oh,
really, really
oh
fast. And I had
no.
to, I
They're
give her a
ninjas.
drink of water. I had to wipe her down, and my husband
Oh.
beside, and I said, "Well, Estelle ate shit." And he's like, "Is
Uh,
she okay?" And I said, "It wasn't. She didn't fall, honey."
think literally. Oh
Literally, darling.
no. Oh
Literally.
no.
And I
Yeah.
was like, I guess they eat the same thing, same environment. It's not a kid from daycare. As,
Yeah. It's just
smallest minute amount, I
yeah.
just will try not to let them know about that. And then if they hear your podcast one day, she'll have
Yeah.
trauma and I'll pay for therapy. I'll
Yeah,
commit to it.
probably. Well, wait till she's older and out of the house, then she can pay for the therapy. So
Yeah.
there you go.
And here's the key about writing. I used my birth last name, Sedman. Their
Hmm.
last name is Kowalski. That
Hmm.
way, if they're in school and their friends' parents read these books to them, they can kind of play it off like they don't know her. Like, I don't know her. She's not, no, like
No, that's
I don't
not
know Sasha Saidman.
who
Who
that
who is
is.
she? Mean Girl style.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Walk down the hallway, don't recognize me, and I'll be there. Hi, honey.
Yeah.
Just
Nope.
blasting some Blink 182.
Some old school stuff. I love it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yes, I like how Blink 182 is now old school. It makes me cry a
I
little
know.
bit.
It
Makes me cry.
does. Old
Yeah.
Simple Plan, Blink, all of it. It's you gotta bring it back. My daughter's favorite song is Let the Bodies Hit the Floor.
Awesome.
And
Is
I'm
that
a big
this
fan.
was that Disturbed? No. Is that
No, that
Disturbed? No, what is
so
that?
some guys, I guess I'm doing a shout out. There's some guys on TikTok that do EDM versions or electronic versions called No
Mm,
Good. And
okay.
they did one where it's like this electronic version of it, and she'll just like headbang to it. And I'm like, let's go, girl. Like, got a little rave kid. Like, woo, let's go to like
Nice.
EDC or something one day.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's my youngest. He wants dad. I want some rock and roll. So we'll put on some like AC/DC or some other stuff, and he's just
Mhm.
in the back just jamming out. I'm like, absolutely. There we go. We got this. He's happy.
Perfect.
He wants some good stuff. I love it. Let's
Yeah.
throw it on. I'm a happy
Mhm.
camper. But I want to know any tips. Do you have any tips for anyone who wants to do children's books like yours or children's books, period? Do you have any like some key elements that you think that people should know about or at least research before they start jumping into this?
So I found my artist through Fiverr. So I think using
Mm,
these platforms
yeah.
to find artists and to really kind of do it yourself, I think is great. And I think really having your ideas in place. So for me, I was visualizing it, writing it, and then I actually would draw it out and storyboard it myself. So when I went to
Oh,
an artist finally, I really
very
had an
smart.
idea of what I wanted. And I probably went through 20 different artists where my first book,
Whoa.
First Night, was with one artist, and then I found Lola, who I did a boat in the kitchen with, and I've stuck with her through everything. And me and her have such a great working relationship. So I think there's also this point of like going with your gut and like
Yes.
when you visualize something the way you want it, it's gonna come out great. Like
Hmm.
it's like interior design. I love the idea of if you buy things that you love, whether you think they match or not, if you love them, if you love those items, at some point they will look good together because you love every single thing. So instead of buying a sofa that kind of matches that chair and then pillows that kind of match that thing, but you don't really like anything, you're not going to like it. So it's
No.
same with writing books. So it's like
Mm,
write about what you love,
yes.
draw it and illustrate it, or have these even sketches. I mean, I have little pencil sketches on lined paper of what I wanted it to look like. And then I sent it to her and we went back and forth if she had questions.
Yeah.
and then really just go with someone where you're like, this is how I visualize. I visualize these bright colors that kind of look like clip art, but also look like cut out construction paper and just super visual and bright and bold. And like at first I was thinking watercolor and then I was thinking not. And you go back and forth on these things and you kind of just follow your gut with that
Yes.
and just do your research. I mean, I do Amazon KDP
Yep.
and I'm not going to be a millionaire, but I really love doing it. And it allows me to work from home with my children. And
That's
at
cool.
the age they are, I'm able to work late at night. It's
Yeah.
something I can share with them. And that was like really the goal. And that's something that someone at once told me, which was like, why?
Mhm.
Why are you doing it? Like, what is your
It's
reason? Do
fun.
you want to make money? Do you want to like buy a boat and a yacht and all these things? 'Cause, like, most likely self-publishing on Amazon is not how you're going to get there, but it
No.
brings me such joy to do it.
Yeah.
It's it is worth its weight in gold at this
Hmm.
point. Like I feel
Absolutely.
so rich with experience and with what I'm doing. And so really it's doing what you love. So whether it's children's books, adult books, if it's not books at all, like just
Yeah.
like you can find the time. I mean, late at night when your kids are asleep, if you have a day job, you can fold it in. And when you
Hmm.
love something, it's not work. I mean, there's definitely things that feel like work,
Hmm.
but more than half of it is just enjoyment. And then
Yes.
sharing it with my kids and watching them shred the pieces of paper on the floor of my book is just the icing on the
They
cake.
do it out of love. I
They
mean,
do.
it's
The amount of copies that I've
they're
just had to
learning.
toss that I'm like, oh, that's so great. Like,
Thank you.
thank you so much. I'm so glad you loved it enough to play with it.
Right, right. That's really the
Like,
highest compliment you can get from a
it,
kid.
it is. You picked it up out of the bajillion books. You picked mine up and ripped that one up while looking
Mm,
at it. Like, you
mm.
know what? That was perfection.
Yeah,
Like, love it.
it'd be kind of cool to see what it would cost to make out a board book out of those.
Oh, I have tried and it is money,
I
especially when
imagine.
it's you have to do bulk orders. And so that's what
Oh,
scared me is I would have to supply and
oh,
I just am like, I'm not Amazon. I have dogs, which means dog hair. I have
oh
kids,
yeah.
which means
Everything else.
destroy. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Maybe
I
one
know.
day. That would be a huge goal for one day for sure. That's on my bucket list.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, and hell, you
Mhm.
could even do where like you put it out there. Hey, I want to do a board books. Is anybody interested? And you have
Yeah.
like a poll or something. Oh, I have 100 people who would love board books, and you can do
Mhm.
special order and basically price it.
Pre-order to price and
Yeah, that way you're not fronting a bunch of
yep.
money, and you might make a little bit. You might
Hmm.
not. It might just be something kind of cool. You might make no
Hmm.
money, just be the
Yep.
experience.
Yep, and that's
Uh,
what I love about like Amazon KDP right now is just the front is barely anything. Where
yeah,
like it's a print to order,
so
I
cool.
up it's great and it makes it so that like a lot of people can do it, which it's a flooded market.
Oh my God, it
But it
is.
makes it so anyone can write, anyone can do this.
Yeah,
Like, and
it's
if
kind
you
of a
really
double-edged
want
sword.
to, yeah, it
Yeah,
is. It is a double-edged sword. But like for kids, I feel like it's just my kids rip up my books all the time. Kids go through things so quickly
they do.
that sometimes we need these small things to just kind of keep circulating within
Hmm.
our house. And one of those things is books.
Yes, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundred books, and we've thrown away,
Mhm.
unfortunately,
Yep.
hundreds and hundreds of books because they've destroyed them. And I mean, it's out
Mhm.
of, out of love because they read
Yep.
them so much or they played with them like they did yours. And it's just how
Yep.
it goes. But I love that you can find joy and have a good hobby slash business slash
Yeah.
passion, because that's
Hmm.
really what it feels like to me too,
Yeah.
to write and enjoy yourself, find yourself and an
Hmm.
identity outside of being, a mother, a wife,
Yeah.
and you actually have this is Sasha's job. This is
This is
Sasha's
Sasha
stuff.
Saidman.
Sasha,
This
yeah,
is this is me.
this is you exactly. And so
Hmm.
that's really cool to hold on to. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you are able to find that with amidst all the crazy being a
Yeah.
mom stuff and
You find your spot. And like, it's funny, we're talking right now, and I know it's audio, but we're seeing each other on video. I'm sitting in my closet
there
on the
you
floor.
go. It looks like a great
I'm,
closet.
I've painted a
That
little
is
backdrop. Oh, hello,
amazing.
sweetheart. This is my son is here.
Hey buddy, how you doing, dude?
Yeah. I have my sword. You got a sword? You can go
You got
find
a
dad.
sword? Oh yeah. The cool
You can go
sword.
find daddy. I want that. Go with daddy. I want to
You're fine,
I
you're
know.
fine.
Daddy. Go with daddy. Just 5 more
Well,
minutes, I
yeah, we'll
promise,
wrap up.
bud.
We'll wrap up. I'm sure we could probably talk for another hour if we
Yep.
wanted to.
There's a monster truck that he spotted.
Well, monster trucks are
So,
cool. So yeah, that's amazing. I can keep this in or I can get rid of it, whatever you
oh,
want.
that's, hey, leave it in, whatever.
Yeah.
That's life
It's
as
it's the tail. Yeah,
parents
that
working.
is literally been listening to my kids argue in the other room, and I'm like, oh my
Mhm.
God, you know what? Forget it. I'm just gonna leave this. It's okay if the
Yeah.
people hear it.
Oh yeah.
They are best friends and they're enemies in the same minute. So
Yeah, it's like I'm so grateful they have each other, but also like, oh my
Jesus.
gosh, like I've
Yeah.
seen parents put like the walls up between them in cars. I feel that. I feel like there should almost be those screens that you pull up on windows. They should
Yes.
have them come with cars, like minivans and stuff, that you can like go and clip them up that are like fabrics, they won't hurt in an accident, but are
Yeah.
just enough to create a barrier. Like I think
Mm.
that might be something we have to patent.
We might
Like
need to do that. Like we can engineer
because
some
like a
stuff.
little clip that just goes between the seats, little like
Yeah.
roll up thing, and just you can just put it there, doesn't hurt anything, doesn't
Yeah.
anything, just whoop, and then you have a barrier. I
That's
mean, it's
amazing.
great.
Yeah, we have to literally separate the kids sometimes because they're
Maybe we
just
will be
like,
millionaires. Who
maybe,
knows?
maybe we'll figure it
This is
out.
it. If
Yeah,
you're
Zoom.
listening, I'm getting a patent pending before
Yeah.
this goes live.
We only got a couple weeks.
Yeah.
We gotta work hard. We gotta work fast. Oh, that's amazing. Well, I'm sure people would like to know where they can get these wonderful children's books. And this has been so fun. Where can people get copies of all of your books?
So they can get all my books at sashasaidman.com, which will lead you to Amazon, which you can search all of these book titles. You can search my name, Sasha Saidman, and then I have Instagram, Facebook, and a TikTok. You can see all of the shenanigans that my family gets into on
Yeah,
TikTok. My son got pretty big on it under the hashtag the Kowalskis.
nice.
He was a chunky boy, and it got a lot of people's attention for a while. So
That's
he is
funny.
like 180,000 followers or something.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's
Holy cow. He's
yeah,
popular.
he ran the world.
No, he is the CEO. You need to
He's
write
the
that book
CEO.
now. Get
Yeah,
on that.
he is the CEO of this house.
Oh my God. That is so cool though. That is amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it's
Oh God.
super fun. And that's where I post a lot of videos and I'll be posting, about this podcast and everything. And
Fabulous. I
yeah,
appreciate that. My goodness.
definitely.
That's so cool. Yeah, parenting is so fun. It can be so stressful, but it's worth it in the end. It
It
makes
is.
us go crazy. It makes me lose my hair and go gray
Yep.
but you know what? It's worth it in the end, especially if you love your kids, you make
Hmm.
sure they succeed and it's just
Yeah.
funny stories too. Let's be
Oh, it's
honest.
great. And sometimes hanging on to them. I mean, I feel like every parent needs that book like you're writing, just like to write down these phrases we say during the day. Like, did that really just come out of my mouth?
Yeah,
Like, that
yeah,
really just happened, right? Like, don't smell your sister's diaper.
yeah,
Yeah, like, yep. And
yeah.
that was like
Or
a full, like,
uh-huh.
face, like, yep, that's
Yeah.
cool. And
Another
so is
another good
Bo.
one was butt bongos. Don't play your brother's butt like bongos was another one.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
good
Yeah, it
one.
was after bath time, they were 2 and 4, and it was like, where did this and okay. Yeah, just
Yep,
stupid shit like that. It's hilarious. But we'll have to collab or something on a parent book one day. I think that'd be funny.
definitely.
We have enough. I think we have enough between the two of us to make
Oh, yeah.
volumes of the stuff.
Definitely. We should put like a poll out on your podcast of like the stories that other parents have, and it can just be like a co-written book,
Oh, dear
like the
Lord, that'd be
memoirs of
amazing.
parents, and
Oh
just,
my God.
and
And just have
parents wouldn't feel so alone. And it's just like, that's what we need. Like coming into it, it's like parenting is
that
hard.
is
We all go through
brilliant.
this. I have a great book that is someone got me, and it's the things no one tells you about parenting. And
Mm.
I think on like one of the first chapters, it's like, no one wants to hear about your birth. And it was like so real because as a parent, when you go through it, there's so many details, and you're like, no one wants to hear it.
Like it doesn't matter.
No,
I'm telling
maybe
you.
your sister who's also had children, but like no one else
No one
has,
does.
and no
Yeah.
one wants to hear it. Like they
It
want to see baby's healthy, mommy's healthy,
yeah.
the cute picture of the baby wrapped up and clean. Like we
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah. I'm one of the weird ones that's like, yeah, tell me because I'll tell you all
oh,
about what's going on. I don't
same.
care.
I'm like, let me know all
I
the
love
details
compare
of
and
your labor,
contrast.
like how long, tell me.
I don't care. Like it's
Yeah.
so okay. I
Hmm.
whatever. I'm used to it by now. So it's
Yep.
like I look forward to it because then it's like now we have a shared experience. You went through a hell of a time. I went through a hell of a
Uh-huh.
time. You're
Yep.
exhausted and stressed. I'm exhausted and stressed, but
Yep.
you
Like,
love it and I love it.
yep. Like, oh, when they threw up in your face too. Yep. That happened
Absolutely.
to me. Like, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Your husband
exactly.
took a picture of you instead of helping? Yes, that happened.
And of course, I do it too. If they have
Yeah.
problems, I take pictures of them and then I help them
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's
Oh, I
funny
have a
that way.
great picture of just projectile, and my husband's
Mm,
just like cracking up in the kitchen, and then like my dogs are like at my feet, and I was just like, like what? I can't drop him. You
no.
have to hold the baby and just let them keep going. And you're like, as a parent, you're like, they have to make sure their head stays up. Like, are they okay?
It's so good. It's so good. But we probably should end this before we go on to like 2 or 3 hours because I know
Oh
my
yeah.
kids are wanting something, your kids are wanting
Mm.
something. It's just how it
Yeah.
goes. But Sasha, this has been wonderful. This has been probably one of the most fun conversations I've had in a while. So appreciate you
Likewise.
coming
This has been
on.
so much fun.
Cool. I love that. And whenever you've got more books out, I'd love to host you again. I think it'd be fun to do some more promotions and just this has just been a very nice talk about fun books, about parenting being, well, the reality of parenting and how
Yep.
crazy it can be, and just getting to laugh with another parent. So it's been
Yep.
so thank you for this. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. This was really fun.
I'm glad to host something fun.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Had some laughs with us at our pain and misery. It's just kind of how it goes. You know, misery loves company. Um, anyway, if you can benefit from checking out some wonderful children's books, they just sound awesome. I'm gonna have to go and pick some up and share them with my kids. I think that'd be a good way to end the evening. But go check her out, Sasha Saidman, and all of her fantastic books. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And as always, stay mighty and keep reading.